guys, I'm back with another video for you. You should know my name, Angel, and I'm about to react to some videos, so let's get into it, period.
I'll shoot you.
Oh, and I forgot to say my intro.
I'll
If you don't like
shoot
me,
you.
go to, if you don't like me, say that. So
I'll
let's
shoot
go.
you.
I can't believe my mom would do this again. She's walking into the
The
house.
heck? Why her
Their
booty
brand
is
new
big?
designer handbag. My dad would go ballistic if he found out she's been spending
First
money.
of all,
Shut your
what? Jeremy! I need to call. Jeremy, he ruined my video. I told you, bring them out the room. They ruined
Just
it.
continue the video.
So yeah, let's get back into it.
On purses again. My mom has a serious shopping addiction. She tries to hide it from us, but she talks to her fancy friends about it all the time. She thinks I can't hear her because I'm deaf. Well, surprise, I can. Since I was 7 years old, my hearing started to deteriorate. It's because of a rare ear disease. By the age
Rare
of
ear
10, I was
disease? What is
completely
that?
deaf. We tried operations and treatments, but nothing worked. I had to go to a school for students with hearing and sight disabilities. It was extremely traumatic. I had to learn sign language and reading lips. Luckily, I made a few good friends. I felt really miserable. One day during break time, I fell to the ground in tears. I couldn't believe that
Why
I would
is she
never
crying?
be
She
able
looks
to
like-
listen to music
she
again
look like a
or hear
boy.
anyone's voice. My friend Rosie pulled me to the side. She was acting really strange. I have a secret, she mouthed. From her pocket, she took a hearing aid. It's really powerful, she mouthed. Give it a try. At first I was hesitant, but what did I have to lose? To my shock, it worked. I could hear birds and cars. I could hear Rosie laughing. It was a miracle. Rosie gave it to me and said, keep it until you feel a bit better.
It's another commercial. Oh, nasty.
I decided not to tell my parents about it. I was sure they knew something like this existed, and they never bothered to buy me one. Also, I wanted to know if they kept anything from me. That night, I could hear my parents fighting about money and purses. I'm making all the money, and you're spending it on handbags, said my dad. Oh, honey, it doesn't cost that much. You know that. It's all for the show. Even though it was really great to hear again, I didn't like listening to my parents fighting. But nothing could prepare me for the secrets that I would find out next. That night, my parents got all dressed up. My mom was showing off her new glittering designer dress and matching shoes. Off they went to a fancy dinner at some rich guy's house. My dad was only a small shop manager, and my mother stayed at home. Where did they get all that money from? Luckily, I was old enough and didn't need a babysitter. I watched some TV with the sound turned to full volume. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I got a fright and switched off the TV. The knock became louder and louder. I looked through the peephole. It was a lady. She seemed distressed. It's Mia. Open up. Open up. They're looking for me. Everything in my body told me not to open the door, but I did it anyway. I had my sign earphone. I can't hear you. I'm deaf. I showed it to the lady as she forced her way in. She was going on a total rant about purses and something about the police. Where my parents were, she looked as though she hadn't slept in days. I guided her to the couch. She seemed harmless, so I made her a cup of tea and gave her some leftover pizza. She said, thank you, but I shrugged my shoulders, pretending not to know what she was saying. In a matter of moments, the lady fell asleep. She was snoring so loudly. Finally, my parents came into the house. They were arguing again. My mom said, if you didn't give it all away, we'd be rich by now. To which my dad replied, you would have just stuck to the plan. I wouldn't have given it all away. Then they saw me. Honey, you're still awake. I pointed to the sofa. My mom was My dad used sign language to tell me that it was my mom's childhood friend. Then he told me to go to my room. So I did. I tried to listen to my
I'm gonna
parents
come back
and what they
right
were saying when something really weird happened. My hearing aid started to buzz. It made these strange noises like a radio tuning into a station. Was I picking up signals? It doesn't seem like Mia will be coming out of that house tonight. I quickly jumped to look out the window. Black SUV was standing outside. Two men were sitting in the front. It looked like one had a hand radio. I heard them talking. Let's go. We can catch up with her tomorrow. We don't want them seeing us. The SUV drove off. A few moments after the two guys left, I could see my parents and Mia walking to her car. car. They opened the trunk and removed 5 big black bags from it. My dad said, "We'll keep them in the safe." Do we have a safe? I never knew that. I could hear them walking to my dad's study. We weren't allowed in there. I followed them and hid behind the door. My dad moved a heavy bookcase out of the way. Behind the bookcase was a huge door with a lock pad. What could be in there? Jewelry? A few sentimental pieces? He punched in a 6-digit code and the giant door opened up. Inside was a small room. There was money stacked from the floor to the ceiling. I gave a big gasp. My mom must have heard me. She turned around, but I quickly hid behind the door. Throw the bags in there for now. Let's sleep on it, and we'll figure out what to do with it all tomorrow. My parents offered Mia to sleep on the couch. Later that night, I heard my dad tell my mom, "We need to get rid of Mia. She knows too much." My mom agreed. What were they going to do to Mia? And what were they hiding? In the early morning hours, I heard a commotion coming from downstairs. It was still dark outside. I had to investigate. The sound was coming from my parents' safe. It was Mia. She was filling a backpack with cash. She probably cracked the code. I turned on the light. She looked at me in shock, then waved with a creepy smile on her face. I was curious to know what was going on. I asked, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
She looked
ugly,
even more shocked.
boring.
"Oh, you can talk." Yes, I just can't always hear so well." She looked at me with a soft smile and sighed. "Well, come here and I'll tell you everything." Somehow, I felt sorry for this lady. She looked completely lost. As I walked towards her, she was putting the backpack on her shoulders. Completely oblivious to what she was planning, I moved closer. With a big push, she shoved me into the safe and closed the door. The safe was completely soundproof. I started knocking on it and kicking, but nothing. It was really tough. Luckily, there was a damp light inside. I was surrounded by cash and black bags. I screamed and yelled, but no one heard me. Then my hearing aid started to make scratchy noises again. "Where's Mia?" I heard my dad say. Somehow my hearing aid picked up the frequencies from inside the house. "There she goes! Run! Get her!" I could hear them running out of the front door, but it was too late. Mia got away. "How are we going to explain this to the boss, Stefan?" said my mom. "I have no idea. Mia was your employee." "Huh? Did my mom have an employee?" "She is always either shopping and maxing out credit cards or watching her favorite soaps on TV. You're going to have to explain it to him. I'm not doing your dirty work. You got greedy and now you have to pay for it." My mom stomped off to the bedroom, with my dad following her. I screamed again, hoping they'll hear me, but they didn't. I was stuck inside this safe. When were my parents going to figure out that I was missing? My hearing device went completely silent for about an hour. I looked around me. There was probably more than $1 million in cash there. The black bags were tightly closed. I was so curious to know what was inside. Just as I was about to open one, the weird buzz sound appeared again. Someone said, "Mia's car isn't here anymore." I say we pay those two a front door visit. What do you say? I bet it was the two guys in the black SUV again. Through my hearing device, I could hear the two guys barging into our front door. My mother screamed in
How did
horror.
they get in the
"Where's our
front door?
merchandise?
Yeah.
We want it
Oh,
now,"
you
the
should
guys
have
said
locked the front
demandingly.
doors.
Okay, Stefan, we got it. Come with us.
Oh, yeah,
My dad
lock
said
the
calmly.
front door.
This guy was Stefan, the boss? I could hear them moving towards the study. Thank God they were going to find me in here and set me free. I could tell they were standing outside the safe's door. "We want everything that Mia made. Here? Don't think that you're going to trick us. Show us the stuff." I could hear my dad guiding the two guys to the safe. At this point, I was really panicking, so I just decided to hide behind the bags. I quickly moved them around. My dad opened the safe and pushed the two guys into it with me. I shrieked when one of the guys stomped onto my foot. It all happened so quick. Before I knew it, my father shut the safe again. It was me and the two guys in there. They were screaming and kicking the door. The bags fell off my body. They didn't even notice me. Then I yelled, "Stop it!" I don't know what came over me, but I was tired of being ignored, and I wasn't scared anymore. The two guys got a big fright. I've never seen two grown men more scared in their lives. They must have thought that I was a ghost. I said, "Shut up." They fell completely silent and fell to their knees. I could hear my parents through my hearing aid again. "Stefan won't be happy with the amount of merchandise we have for him. He wants more and we can't keep him locked for long," my mom said. "Without Mia, we can't produce anything. She's the only one who could copy that exactly." What were they talking about? Then it hit me. The merchandise is probably inside these black bags. The two guys stared at me as I tore open the black bags that came from Mia's car. One of them even started praying. He really thought I was a ghost. I went, "Boo!" and he gave a shrill scream. As the secret was finally revealed, it was a bunch of handbags, made with shiny stones and beautiful fabrics. Stefan and his friend's eyes were wide open. For the first time, I understand my mom's obsession with designer bags. They were truly magnificent. Stefan broke his silence and asked, "Creature of the night, where did you find these handbags?" Everything finally made sense. Mia was the one who made knockoff designer handbags. My parents probably sold them to Stefan, who then sold them on the black market. They were complete fraudsters. I could hear my mother say, "We have to let them out now." I decided to take matters into my own hands and played along with their illusion. I put on a ghost voice and chanted, "Mia, she's the one. Leave these people alone. Never come back. Promise me. Promise." The two men were nodding their heads and shaking. At that moment, my mother opened the safe's door. The two men rushed out of the safe screaming. My parents didn't even notice me. They ran after Stefan. They were probably in such a state of shock that they left the safe's door open. I could finally escape. As my parents closed the front door, I pretended to have just woken up. "Hello, honey. Did you sleep well?" they hand-signed. I nodded yes, pretending to rub the sleep from my eyes. I never told my parents that I heard all their secrets through my powerful hearing aid. And that Monday, I asked my parents if I could get this kind of hearing aid, but they said it's too expensive. I couldn't believe that they lied to my face. I knew how much money they had hidden in that safe. At school, I returned Rosie's hearing aid. Perhaps it was better that I didn't know about my parents' secret fraudulent business. Or maybe I should take some money from the safe without them knowing and buy the hearing aid myself. Either way, I've learned a lot from this experience.
That was so good, guys. What's another ad? Yeah. Guys, I'm gonna watch one more and that's it.
Hey, I have a dilemma involving my stepbrother, Justin, and I could really do with your help. My parents divorced when I was little, and my mom met a new man who has 2 teenage sons, Justin and Luca. Justin and I were never very close at first, and we rarely spoke to each other. I kind of felt like he made zero effort with me, and he acted like I was invisible. Thankfully, I only had to put up with him for half of the week, as he and Luca lived with their mom the other half of the week. It was only during our parents' wedding that things between Justin and I changed. My mother and her partner were getting married in Italy, so we went there for a long weekend. Justin didn't do his usual ignoring me act. Instead, he just made fun of me. He laughed at me when he saw me in my new striped bikini and said I looked like an angry bee. And he also hid my phone and watched on as I spent an hour in a panic as I searched for it. I guess this was brother and sister stuff. I wasn't used to having brothers, as I had 2 little sisters. A few days into the trip, we were drinking with the other guests on the terrace area. It was so warm, and the atmosphere was great. Everyone was in a good mood. Even Justin. I'm 15, so I didn't drink loads, but Mom said I could have a few glasses of wine. I was getting on well with Justin and Luca. Then, when Luca went to the bathroom, Justin leaned in close to me and whispered in my ear, "Lisa, you look really pretty tonight." I didn't say anything at first, as I thought he was winding me up. When I was sure that he actually meant it, I muttered out a thanks. I had probably turned as red as a lobster. I sucked at accepting compliments. I was staying in an apartment with the boys, but I had my own pull-out bed in the living room. Luca walked off ahead, but Justin lingered back and walked alongside me. He brushed his fingers past mine, then he smiled at me.
Okay, guys,
I found myself smiling back
this is
at
the
him.
second video,
I'd
but
never
it's
seen
getting
the
good.
nice side of Justin before, and I had to admit that I liked it. The day of the wedding arrived. It was a great day, and my mom looked so beautiful and happy.
I need to
In the
turn this light
evening,
on.
there
It's
was
so
a
dark.
massive
Wait, hold up.
party. Everyone, except my little sisters, of course, had a little too much alcohol, so lots of people were a little drunk. I was sitting down and sipping on my wine when Justin yanked on my arm and insisted that I dance with him. Some catchy pop tune was playing, so I thought it'd be fun to dance together. We were both jumping about, and it was a laugh. Then the song finished, and some romantic ballad came on. I blushed and was about to walk back to my seat, but Justin grabbed my arm and pulled me in closer to him. The alcohol made me more confident than normal, so I looped my arms around his neck and he placed his hands on my waist and we danced together. When the song finished, we both gave awkward laughs and then walked off in different directions. The party finished, so Justin and I walked back to our room. Luca wasn't with us. He was 18, so he got into town to carry on the party. We were laughing and joking with each other as we staggered back to the room. Then I looked into my bag and realized that my phone was missing. I sat down on the ground and tipped out my bag. Justin made some joke about girls' bags being like a TARDIS. Then he picked up my phone off the floor. I was so happy that he'd found my phone that I wrapped my arms around him and thanked him. As I pulled back, he coughed to clear his throat. Lisa, He stopped talking.
Okay, guys.
What's up? I asked him. Nothing. He shook his head. I stuffed everything back into my bag and then attempted to walk straight. Justin put his arm around me and steered me in the right direction. Back in the apartment, I quickly brushed my teeth and changed into my pajamas. When I was done, I saw Justin lying on my bed, so I told him to go to his bed. He refused to move, so I just shrugged and went to his bed to sleep there. Suddenly, he appeared and grumbled that he wanted to sleep in his bed. I got up to go back to my bed, but he pulled me back down, then he lay down next to me. Stay, we can play truth or dare, he said. Fine, I choose truth. He asked me how many boys I'd kissed, and I told him the truth. 2. He was silent for a minute or so, and I thought he'd fallen asleep, but then he said, truth. I asked him if he liked any girls. I only asked him this because I was too tired and tipsy to think up anything else. There's this one girl, he muttered, but I don't think she's ever noticed me much. Until now, maybe? Then he touched my hand. I didn't know how to react to this. Was he winding me up again, or was he being serious? I told him I was tired and said I'd go back to my bed, but he told me to stay with him. I don't know why, but instead of getting up, I just did what he said and laid next to him. He kept on fidgeting. Then he put his arm around me, and then a few seconds later he pulled it back. Then he brought it back again and spooned me. Then, out of nowhere, he put his hands between my legs. Well, I thought that was enough, and I pulled his hands away and quickly jumped out of bed. Justin, come on, you're my stepbrother, I said. I know, but... He got up, then gave me a kiss on my cheek and said, I love you. I didn't know what to say, so I just told him to go to sleep. He asked me not to mention what had happened the next day. I said nothing, then went back to my bed. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him and what had happened. The next morning, I woke up with the worst headache ever. As I was searching through my bag for headache tablets, Justin walked into the living room and barely acknowledged me. Later that day, he came up to me, and before I could stop myself, I asked him, do you remember anything about what happened last night? He said he'd been drunk and couldn't remember much about the evening. This happened a month ago, and ever since then, I can't stop thinking about Justin. When he's over at my house, I try my best to avoid him, and I feel like he's trying to avoid me too. On a few occasions, I've caught him looking at me when he thought I wasn't looking. I haven't talked about this with anyone, but I keep thinking something. What if I hadn't stopped him that night? What if? Since that night, I also keep dreaming about him. I'm sad when I wake up and I realize it isn't real. Do I have a crush on my stepbrother? Am I crazy? Please help me, as I don't know what I should do.
Stepbrother. I won't forget that I liked it, but just one more, maybe. One more in the video. One more, just one. Okay, let's get into it.
Hello, my name is Jennifer, and recently a very unpleasant story has happened to me. To be more specific, I became the girlfriend of a real school bully. The relationship brought me a lot of problems. Let me tell you everything from the beginning. I went to a regular school and led a very regular life. I had friends with whom I was often hanging out with after school, as well as loving parents who always took care of me and helped me with everything. I just tried to study well and not cause any particular problems to anyone. In short, I was an ideal daughter and a teacher's favorite. I was a real good girl. I was also a class monitor, and I got along well with all my classmates. We always helped each other and tried to create a friendly atmosphere at school. Our class could be called ideal if it weren't for one but. The major bully of our entire school was in my class. His name was Bill,
He was a very tall, broad-shouldered, and well-built guy.
Ew.
Even just a look from him sent shivers down one's spine. So he had no friends. In addition, he always initiated fights and got involved in various brawls which caused him to end up in the principal's office. Once, because of him, several high school students had to go to the hospital for a month because of numerous fractures. And all they were doing was standing up for first graders that Bill was trying to steal lunch money from. Well, at least that's what people were saying. Different rumors have been spread around the school, and I did not always know which were true and which were not. In any case, I tried not to mess with this guy. I didn't know anything about Bill's personal life and family, and I didn't want to. I tried to minimize the chances of ever running into him, but unfortunately that wasn't possible because I was the class monitor, and one way or another I had to have contact with all of my classmates, including Bill. Once I ran into him in the hallway when I was in a hurry for a class and I wasn't watching where I was going. As I hit him hard, I fell to the floor and Bill didn't even stumble. When I saw his huge silhouette, I was so scared that I lost the ability to speak. He just walked by without even looking at me. I sincerely hoped this was our first and last meeting like that. However, as bad luck would have it, from that moment on, Bill began to hunt me everywhere. Not only did the teachers consider it a good idea to make us sit at the same desk, but they also gave me different tasks related to him. For example, I was supposed to give him some printouts with the assignments or tests that he had missed. In general, school went on as usual, and there were... I hope you guys are hungry because we're going to do an entire mukbang series in this little cafe. Hello. It all started off with me being a food photographer all over LA. I love food photography, but I'm so happy that TikTok lets me create videos. Oh yeah. Okay, so a little bit of what I do. I walk into the restaurant, I check out their menu, and I have to order at least 3 different items just to get the right shot. Let's do 4 burgers.
Nope, no more.
Were no signs of trouble until at one of the lessons I caught Bill looking at me. At first, I did not think anything of it. What's the big deal? He looked at me, so what? This did not bother me until I realized that Bill began to invade my personal space. He followed me everywhere, in the hallway, in the cafeteria, in gym class. I could not even talk with my friends without interruptions since he was always there. He was waiting for me at the school gate, and more often he sat down at my desk. Because of this, I could not concentrate on the lessons, and during our breaks, I tried to get lost in the crowd. My classmates were afraid to even come up to me, as they often caught Bill looking at them with irritation. Even my best friends began to avoid me. The real nightmare began when, during one of the breaks, Bill just grabbed my hand and led me out of the class. None of my classmates even tried to stand up for me, and my friends just turned away as if they hadn't seen anything. I felt so upset that I almost burst into tears. I understand their fears, but is this a reason to abandon me? He took me to a deserted place and said that he wanted to be my boyfriend. Out of fear, I immediately agreed, and only after that realized what I had done. In short, that's how my relationship with Bill began. At first, he tried to be nice and courteous with me, but he didn't manage to do it very well. He dragged my book bag along the way to school and helped take off my coat, but he did it in such a careless manner that I was worried he would tear my clothes. In addition, at any moment, he could grab a notebook or even a phone out from my hands for no reason without explaining anything. I completely stopped communicating with my classmates. Bill threatened everyone who dared to approach me. Once, he even drove my friend away in a rude manner when she tried to talk to me. I did not know what to do with this, so I just put up with it without saying a word. At the request of Bill, I began to help him with his homework. In fact, I just did everything for him while he was sitting next to me and looking at his phone, watching YouTube videos or some sports match. I wrote his essays, which he couldn't even properly read out loud. But that wasn't all. Once, during a lunch break, some guy ran past me and accidentally spilled his drink on me. A dark spot appeared on my blouse, but it wasn't that bad compared to what happened next. Bill decided to show off his manliness and stand up for his beloved girlfriend. He grabbed that guy by his collar and lifted him in the air with one hand while preparing to punch him with the other. I immediately started screaming and asking him to stop this while demanding to put the poor guy on the ground.
I am a big fan of ABC Mouse. If you don't know what ABC Mouse is, and you've been living in a hole, just kidding. ABC Mouse is an awesome app. You get it right on your tablet, you can get it on the computer. Jensen did so much letter recognition.
I even had to grab Bill's hand and literally hang on it to make him listen to me. And this was not the first case when I had to rush to the rescue of others while protecting them from the anger of my boyfriend. I did not want to become the reason for any of his fights. I even felt like a hero when I tamed this wild beast and saved his victims from their fate. Bill was really annoyed by my behavior, and once he even shouted at me, saying that I should not poke my nose into his business. Also, I really hated Bill's bad habits. I asked him to refrain from them when I was next to him, but he often forgot about it. Apparently, he just did not take my words seriously, which was also really annoying. Sometimes I even had to pick up trash after him and put it in the trash can myself. This made me very angry, but I couldn't say anything to him in response. Bill has always been rude, even towards me. I did not know what to do with our relationship and whether it is possible to call this a relationship at all. But one event put everything in its place. This happened in one of our gym classes. My classmates decided to play soccer while the teacher was busy. Bill was standing next to me when a soccer ball hit his head with great force. My classmate ran up to us immediately and started to apologize, but Bill did not even listen to him. He just grabbed that guy by the shirt and began yelling at him, threatening to mess him up. I immediately rushed up to them and begged Bill to stop, but he didn't listen to me at all. When he was preparing to hit, I stood between him and the guy, hoping that it would change his mind. But believe it or not, Bill hit me. I fell to the ground, and after that, he stopped. My friends immediately rushed up to me and were horrified by what they had seen. There was a bruise under my eye, and my nose was bleeding. I burst into tears because of the pain and started shouting at Bill that I'd never wanted to see him again. After hearing my crying, the teacher immediately rushed up to me and took me to the nurse's office. There, I was examined by the nurse. Later, I ended up in the principal's office where Bill and my parents were already waiting. Mom immediately hugged me, and Dad was really mad when he saw my injured face. As a result, Bill was registered with the police, and my relationship with him finally ended. My classmates were no longer afraid to approach me, and I was able to restore communication with my friends, as well as return to my usual school life. I watched Bill from time to time and could not help but notice his loneliness. All his attempts to talk with someone always ended in failure. People around avoided him and didn't even want to be next to him. At some point, I felt sorry for Bill. I realized that he just didn't know how to make friends. Yeah, it may sound crazy, but I decided to give Bill a second chance. But not in a relationship, of course. After class,
I don't want to know second chance to a man. Another literally. Okay, it's over.
I came up to him and offered to be friends, but under certain conditions. In particular, fights, threats, or other types of aggression were forbidden. I can't say that Bill liked my conditions, but still he agreed. When my friends found out about what I had done, they thought I was crazy. It took me a lot of time to persuade them not to avoid him and not to be afraid of him. First of all, I taught Bill to smile.
In the beginning, he was not successful in this at all. He was even angry with me, and according to him, he felt like a complete idiot. However, daily training began to bear fruit. At least it was not scary to approach him anymore. Of course, everything was much more difficult with his reserved character. Bill was not used to controlling his own emotions and considering the opinions of others. Each time when he raised his voice at me, I just left silently, making it clear that he needed to calm down. My classmates were watching what was going on with interest, but there were not many people who wanted to talk. At school, Bill was still considered a bully, which was partly true. He managed to get involved in a few more fights, which really made me upset. But it's worth remembering that change takes time. I believe that he will succeed in overcoming his own character and find true friends in the future. Thank you for listening to my story. Why do you think bullies become who they are? Share your opinions in the comments. I would be interested to read them.
One more.
Also, do not forget to click.
Then. What?
Hi, my name is Beth, and I want to tell you how one of the most important days in my life, my graduation day, was overshadowed by a terrible event, a visit to a mental hospital. I still can't believe that this happened to me. Like all seniors, I was looking forward to this day all year. I had been preparing for it. It took me about 2 months to choose the right design of my dress, and then another month to wait for it to be sewn. It was just incredible. My classmates and I chose the best place for our graduation party. It was a restaurant with a view of the whole city. We hired the best DJ and the coolest photographer. It took us almost 3 months just to plan the menu. I won't even mention how much all of this cost us. But graduation happens once in a lifetime, so we wanted to spend it in such a way that we would remember it forever. Well, I don't know if my classmates will remember it, but I definitely will not forget that day. On the appointed day, I woke up earlier than usual to properly get ready. First of all, I got my nails done, then went to the beauty salon for a hairstyle, and I got my makeup done there as well. There was not much time left, so I went home to dress up and go to the restaurant where my classmates had already arrived. When I was ready, my dad was about to pick me up, but he called me and said that he was going to be a little bit late, so I was supposed to meet him halfway in order to get there in time. Oh, Dad, if you only knew what it was like to walk in these beautiful shoes. So I was walking, and then I kept walking, but I still couldn't see my dad anywhere. Then I decided to call him. I was very angry because I did not want to be late, not to mention walking along the street in such elegant clothing. While I expressed my dissatisfaction to my dad, I didn't realize that I had crossed on a red light and was almost hit by a car. Fortunately, nothing horrible happened, but I was scared, so I backed away and I
This is my
broke my
fourth
heel.
video.
After all of this, I just sat on the nearest bench and had a desire to sob and scream. But then I realized I would ruin my makeup and wouldn't get to go to the graduation party at all. Better late than never. I took 2 deep breaths. I made myself calm down and sent the coordinates of my location to my dad so that he could pick me up from there. Then I called my mom and asked her to buy me new shoes and to bring them to the restaurant. Now the only thing I could do was wait. Dad replied that he would arrive in 10 minutes, which meant that I would have time to go to the shop and buy myself a bottle of water because my throat was completely dry from running around in stress. When I was at the cashier paying for my water, people in lab coats rushed into the store, grabbed me by my arms, and roughly dragged me into the ambulance. Who were they? What was going on? Is this a joke? Most likely one of my classmates decided to play a trick on me, and the doctors would bring me to the restaurant by this vehicle. While they were driving me, I was sure that a hidden camera was shooting everything, so I tried to pull myself together and smile. I didn't want to see a video with my face all messed up later on, so I needed to look as good as possible in every situation. When the vehicle finally stopped and the people in lab coats opened the door, I realized that we had not arrived at the restaurant. So the prank was continued. I was taken into a gloomy building, and there I was sent to a ward, which looked like a prison cell. They took my personal belongings and closed the door behind me. I was shocked. This did not feel like a prank anymore. But then, so what was it? Was this a mental hospital? Why was I here? After coming to my senses, I started knocking on the door and demanded them to let me go as I had a graduation party. And at that moment, I was supposed to be there, not here. They heard me but didn't come right away. Then 2 strange women in white coats came into the room. One of them was rolling a cart with some drugs, and the second one was holding a small plastic cup with some tablets in her hand. Honey, you have to take all these pills. And right after that, your classmates will come here and you will start celebrating the graduation, one of them said. No, this is definitely a joke, but it did not seem funny to me. I wonder who came up with this idea. I started screaming at the women, saying that I was fed up and that I was going to leave. As soon as I took a step toward the door, they grabbed me and forcefully dressed me in a straitjacket. It made me even angrier. I was shouting that the game was over, the joke wasn't funny, and I demanded it to stop immediately. The women were unshakable, and they quickly injected me with some kind of drug. It was terribly painful, and then I sat on the floor and I did not care about anything, including my graduation, broken shoe, and my parents.
ABCmouse.com is so fun. There's a ton of things to do.
I felt peace in my soul. Apparently, this was a sedative. Also, those women were so cute. How could I have argued with them? I just asked them where my classmates were, to which they replied that they would soon take me to them. But I was asked to wear hospital pajamas instead of my dress. Well, I really liked it, so I gladly agreed. I was taken to the cafeteria. There were many people wearing the same pajamas, but they were not my classmates. I asked, who are they? The women in white ignored me at first, trying to cheer up some guy who was crying, and then replied that now all these people were my classmates. It was weird, of course, but I was quite happy with everything. After I had eaten, they took me back to the ward. There, the effect of the injection subsided, and I was gripped by panic. This was definitely a mental hospital, and obviously this was not a prank. But what was I doing here? I started knocking on the door again, but just at that moment, I realized that my tantrums could only aggravate the situation. I needed to try my best to just calmly explain that I was there by mistake. This time, the same women came into the room with a man who immediately introduced himself as my attending physician. I said that I was very pleased to meet him and told him my story. He replied that he sympathized with me very much, but I must understand that everything that I was telling him was just a game of my imagination. Then I again tried to explain everything to him, but he only said goodbye to me and went towards the door. I could not stand it and started screaming again, for which I received another injection. After that, I just fell asleep. In the morning, the women in white woke me up. They handed me a glass with pills. My condition was terrible, and I felt even worse when I realized that what had happened the day before was not a dream. But I knew one thing. I needed to do what they told me to do and just try to keep silent. However, I was bothered by the questions, where are my parents? Why don't they come for me? Why am I still here among the mentally ill people? I obediently took the whole handful of pills, after which I was again covered with a wave of peace and tranquility, and then I was taken to the cafeteria. It was another day, a day spent within the walls of a mental hospital. I've never thought that I would ever find myself in such a situation, but still I hoped that last forever. Otherwise, I would lose my mind for real. The next morning, apparently because of the large amounts of medicine, I was just in a terrible state. I felt as if I was the dumbest person in the world. I tried to recall some facts from my life, but I only managed to do it with great difficulty. Mom, Dad, where are you? Come on, get me out of here, I thought. Soon, people in white came into the ward again with the same glass, which I would see in my nightmares until the end of my days. I held out my hand to immediately take all the pills, but then the same doctor ran into the room. He shouted, "Wait! Take this glass away from her right away and prepare her for discharge." What? I could not believe my ears. Will this nightmare finally end? I was very happy and eager to get out of there. Soon they gave me my dress, so I changed clothes and went out to my parents, who were already waiting for me. I did not have the energy to tell them what had happened, so I silently stuck my head into my mother's shoulder and just started crying. It turned out that on my graduation day, a patient nicknamed Graduate escaped from a mental hospital in a neighboring city. Every spring, she experiences an exacerbation during which she escapes from the clinic and goes to a fictional graduation party. And what makes her stand out is that she has a limp. Well, as my heel was broken, I had a limp as well. Also, I was wearing graduation attire. Someone saw me screaming and frustrated, compared me with the description of an escaped graduate who was already shown on all the news stations, and I was caught. Nobody had a graduation party that night because as soon as my parents realized that something bad had happened to me, they immediately arrived at the restaurant together with the police and began to interrogate my classmates. The celebration was ruined. My classmates were scared and shocked because of my disappearance, so they also immediately started to search for me. Soon, the police detained the real Graduate and asked the logical question, where was I then? So they saw in their database that another graduate who was not crazy was also missing, so they realized that it was me. It took me a while to recover from what I had experienced and flush a bunch of unnecessary drugs out of my body. Now I'm getting ready for another graduation party, but this time we agreed with my classmates to celebrate it in a simple and modest manner.
Okay, everybody, like, I'm gonna have to go, and I'm gonna react to some scary videos more than this video, but so I'm about to leave, and I had to tell my brother to hit this off, but I'm coming right back, okay? Jeremy and Parker, I'm done with the video. Okay, I'm about to leave, guys. So, yeah. Probably gonna see my brother because he's gonna turn it off.
First, I'm gonna kill you, and then I'm gonna bring peace to the ninja world!
Oh, I see. That is no law. That would be justice.
Popping up, boom, popping up.
What about my family?